Hello, Utes. This is Katie at Seabrook United Methodist, and today we are going to talk about Nehemiah. Nehemiah is one of my favorite characters, and one that I didn't give a lot of attention to until a few months ago when he was a major part of one of our confirmation classes. The beautiful thing about the book of Nehemiah is the story relates. The story is relatable. We can absolutely take Nehemiah's book and fill in the blanks relative to our time. I have a Nehemiah story. You most likely have a Nehemiah story. I am 99.3% sure your parents have a Nehemiah story. His story is a man who despite everything working against him, accomplishes his task. And so now we begin. The book of Nehemiah. Nehemiah was a cupbearer to the king. For those of you who don't know, a cupbearer has unfettered access to the king. He is the most trusted, the most relied upon member of the royal household. He tests the food for poison. He tests the wine for poison. He's in on all the information that's going around. He's the confidant. He's the guy. When Nehemiah learns that the wall is destroyed, and had been so for 150 years, his heart broke. He approached the king. King, may I please go to Jerusalem and help build this wall? And the king, much to his surprise, says, go for it. Take as much time as you need. Go build your wall. And Nehemiah says, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Before I leave, can you please give me reference letters proving that I have your blessing and that I am going where you know I'm going, and that this is, you know about it, you know where I'm going. And the king says, absolutely, of course. So the king writes up his letters, and Nehemiah tucks him into his pocket, and off he goes to Jerusalem. When he gets to Jerusalem, he inspects the wall. He goes all the way around the wall, and he has to be kind of sneaky about it because he does not want to draw undue attention to himself. So under cover of darkness, he and a few friends inspect the wall. They go all the way around it. There are some spots where his horse, whatever it is he's riding, cannot fit through, and at that point he would have to get on his feet and walk through the ruins. But he did the inspection, and when it was done, he had a meeting with all the nobles and the priests and the governors of Jerusalem and said, we're going to rebuild this wall. I'm going to do it, and you're going to help me, and we are Israelites. We are the people of God. We can do this. And that was a powerful enough speech to get everyone revved up, except for the bad guys, because every good story has at least one bad guy. Those bad guys were Sanballat, hope I do that right, and Tobiah. Those were the two big ones. There were a few others, but those are the names that really got Nehemiah's goat. When Nehemiah rolled into town, Sanballat and Tobiah were immediately threatened. Their authority was threatened, their security and their roles among the city was threatened. They were upset that the Israelites had representation, had an advocate for their well-being. So they Sanballat and Tobiah got to work diminishing Nehemiah. They got all their friends together, all the surrounding enemies. Remember, different groups of people, different groups of people, to become a force against Nehemiah, and then eventually against what Nehemiah was trying to accomplish, which was to build the wall, and thereby protecting the city from the enemies that Sanballat and Tobiah were amassing. So, I'm sorry, I've marked notes in here. So, he starts building this wall. Sanballat and Tobiah are in the background, just very unhappy, very threatened. And they became incensed. And I'm going to read this to you because to try to restate it would not do it justice. When Sanballat heard that they were building the wall, that we were building the wall, this is in first person, he became angry and was greatly incensed. He ridiculed the Jews, and in the presence of his associates and the army of Samaria, he said, "What are those feeble Jews doing? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life?" Tobiah, the Ammonite, who was at his side, said, "What are they building? Even a fox climbing those walls would break it down," indicating that their work wasn't very good. So, what you've got are a whole bunch of people, men, women, and children, who are building this wall. They are working towards building this wall that for 150 years prior had been unsuccessfully, they had unsuccessfully tried to rebuild it over and over again, over 150 years. These people, their countenance was fragile. But Nehemiah got them sparked. So, you've got these bad guys, they're just back here, just, you can't do it, you're not strong, you're not going to do it. And the people were able to get it rebuilt to half the height of its original size, which really says something. And that progress drove Sanballat, Tobiah, and all their buddies crazy. Crazy. Bullies hate it when you succeed. So, when Sanballat, Tobiah, the Arabs, the Ammonites, and the people of Ashdod heard that the repairs to Jerusalem's walls had gone ahead and that the gaps were being closed, they were very angry. Why? Why? They all plotted together to come and fight against Jerusalem and stir up trouble. But we prayed to our God and posted a guard day and night to meet this threat. So, Nehemiah and all the people working on this wall would take a moment and they would pray, which strengthened them, which inspired them to work that much harder. Meanwhile, the people in Judah said, "The strength of our laborers is giving out, and there is so much rubble that we cannot rebuild this wall." So now you've got these jerks that are just, you can't do it. And then you've got self-doubt starting to come up. So you've got antagonists on the outside, and you have antagonists within. And you've all heard the phrase, "You are your worst enemy." These people are fighting against themselves and they don't even realize it. But they're starting to give in. Our enemies said before, okay. So, antagonists everywhere. Some of them are themselves. On top of that, these bullies are making plans to recruit workers to get in amongst the people trying to build the wall so that the real workers will be killed. So the bad guys are coming in and they want to attack the workers as they're working. But Nehemiah and his wall builders realize this plan, and they thwart it, so it doesn't work. Nehemiah says, "Don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord who is great and awesome, and fight for your families, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes." From that day on, half of my men did the work, while the other half were equipped with spears, shields, bows, and armor. The officers posted themselves behind all the people of Judah who were building the wall. Those who carried materials did their work with one hand and held a weapon in the other. And each of the builders wore his sword at his side as he worked. But the man who sounded the trumpet stayed with me. So basically what he's explaining is he has reduced the workforce by 50%. Now there are only, he's got half the workforce who is actively building the wall. The other half is assigned to one person. So it's one worker with one helper. That helper is standing behind the worker, ready to protect him in case of Sanballat and Tobiah and anyone else who decides that they don't like the wall. So this guy, he is organized. He has got his people organized, and he's making it happen. And right before the wall is complete, the people inside the walls of the city, the Israelites, the wives who are not helping build the wall, and the children are joining protests within the city, crying out against their inability to pay their taxes on the land that they can't get to. They can't harvest because everyone is working on this wall. If there's a famine going on, because there's always a famine going on, people are going hungry, people are thirsty, and people are angry, and people are scared, which does not help things. So you've got the antagonists on the outside, you've got the antagonists on the inside, which is self-doubt. And now you have an increase in the voices that are worried about very real things, but that don't particularly have to do with the wall. So Nehemiah has this whole new issue to settle. So while the people are building the wall, Nehemiah calls a meeting with all of the officials and the nobles and the governors and says, "What are you doing? Why are you working against us? These are your people. We are all Israelites. Why are you making this difficult for the families? The families are working on this wall to protect all of us. This is a community effort. Help me give up on your taxation. Give everyone back their land. Let's focus on this wall." And the governors and the officials and the nobles agree. Problem solved. So Nehemiah quells that issue, still getting the wall built on this side. And all the while, Nehemiah is putting out these little fires as they crop up. Sanballat and Tobiah just keep going. They are pointing out everything that's wrong. Imagine, I'm sure we've all seen this, some bully in school standing over someone else and ridiculing them. Or cyberbullies on social media feeds that you may have seen. People that just are not helpful, and they're just looking for things to get mad about. That is not helpful. Words matter. Supporting each other matters. And Nehemiah wasn't getting this. People were getting scared of Sanballat and Tobiah. People were getting hungry and we went over that. But I mean, tensions are high. So the community keeps going despite all these antagonists. And they finally get it done. They finally get it done. They got it done. As for the trumpet guy that stayed with Nehemiah, that was a plan for everyone to listen for the trumpet in the event there is danger, so that everyone can come together and be together and work together to protect whoever was being attacked. That Nehemiah guy was really quite a strategist. These people had no sleep, had no rest. They built this wall in 52 days. It says very specifically in here that the workers worked by day and were guards at night. 52 days. Tired and hungry and stressed. So, what does this mean to us? What I get out of it is don't lose faith in yourself. There are antagonists everywhere. There will always be someone that will work against you. And sometimes, hopefully most of the time, it's because they don't understand what they're doing. Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. Some of them are just not self-aware or emotionally aware enough to understand the pain they cause. That's not your concern. Your concern is finding strength within yourself to continue doing what you're doing, provided it is in accordance with God's will, which is to love. Nehemiah, in the face of pure, unadulterated mean-spiritedness from those working against him, were able to look at the small group he had and came to this indisputable fact. Quality will always come before quantity. To do otherwise is a big mistake. He reduced his force by 50%. That had to have slowed the process considerably. But what he lost in manpower on the wall, he gained in the support for people building the wall. Quality, not quantity. What's remarkable to me is that he was able to accomplish this wall in 52 days, having reduced his manpower by 50%, or people power, woman power, by 50%. But he was also able to take the time to pay attention to what the leaders were doing as a disservice to the community. He made time to point out where the leaders were going wrong. He confronted them, and he helped them by reminding them that we should all be working together, and maybe they shouldn't be facilitating the bankruptcy of the people that were in Jerusalem, their own people, thereby helping get this wall built so much quicker. If he hadn't taken that time to worry about what was happening in the leadership, the complaining would have continued, the countenance would have dropped, quite possibly would have been completely lost. The wall may or may not have been built. He took time. The guy is a hero. He's tenacious. He looks adversity in the eye and does not blink. When you are confronted by an antagonist, whether it's intentional or accidental, because you need to be fair, some antagonists don't realize they're doing it. You need to take a deep breath and remember Nehemiah. He didn't spend his time worrying about the people who were trying to distract him from his vision. They annoyed him. There's a whole book about how they annoyed him. But he didn't let them stop him. He did not give them permission to derail him. He did not give them access to that faith and strength and perseverance he had. And that makes him a pretty big hero to me. So, look inward for strength. If you look outward, you'll always risk finding an antagonist. Look inward. Pray. Become strengthened from prayer and your faith. And always act in love. See you next week.